If in 2026 you're still handcrafting every AI integration, custom auth, custom schema, custom adapter per tool, you're turning your own infrastructure into a bottleneck. There is a standard that solves this. It's called Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. Most CTOs in mid-sized companies haven't heard of it. In the next 5 minutes, we're going to fix that. So I talked about MCP. But what's the actual problem that MCP solves? Anyone who has ever built an AI agent that talks to multiple tools, a ticketing system, a database, an internal API knows this pattern. Because every integration is a one-off project. Everyone needs its own auth, its own error handling, its own schema. At 2 tools, it's manageable. At 10, you're in integration hell. The second problem: these integrations are not reusable. If the marketing team builds an agent that hooks into Jira and the engineering team builds an agent that hooks into Jira as well, you now have 2 different implementations, 2 different auth flows, 2 different permission models. That's nonsense, both technically and organizationally. And the third problem, vendor lock-in. If today you've built every integration against one specific LLM provider's function calling format, and next year you want to switch providers, you are rewriting everything. So now let me tell you what MCP actually is. The Model Context Protocol was open sourced by Anthropic last year. The analogy you hear most often actually fits. MCP is USB-C for AI agent. One thing, one protocol, all devices compatible. Technically, it consists of 3 components. First, the MCP host. That's your application hosting your LLM. For example, the Claude desktop client, your own AI server or IDE plugin. Second, the MCP client. That's the protocol layer inside the host managing connections to servers. And third, the MCP server. That's the actual lightweight process that exposes concrete capabilities. Now, every MCP server exposes these 3 kinds of things. First, the tools. Those are the functions the model can call. Second, the resources, that's the data the model can read. And last but not least, the prompts. That's predefined interaction patterns. Communication always runs over JSON RPC, either via standard I/O for local servers or HTTP with SSE for remote services. Transport agnostic by design. The key point: once you've implemented it, your MCP server works with any AI framework and any LLM provider. That's exactly the standardization that was missing in this ecosystem. From our own customer projects, we consistently see the 3 scenarios that work. First, the ticketing and project systems. Jira, Linear, GitHub issues. An AI assistant that can create, prioritize, and then summarize tickets. It's one of the most immediate value drivers for engineering teams. With MCP, you can stand this up in a few hours, on top of existing REST API without direct database access. Second, internal knowledge bases, like Confluence, Notion, and SharePoint. Let's be honest, search in Confluence has always been a bad joke. An MCP server that semantically searches pages and hence the model relevant excerpts takes information access to a completely different level. And most importantly, the server decides which documents gets exposed. This keeps access controllable. Now third, business intelligence. Metabase, Looker, or direct SQL access to a data warehouse. Instead of an analyst exporting dashboards and interpreting them manually, they can just ask the model, which product category has the highest return rate this week? The MCP server translates that into SQL. The model formulates the answer, including any anomalies worth flagging. But what you need to watch out for before you run off and spin up MCP servers everywhere. Here are 3 principles from practice. Apply least privilege rigorously. Every server gets only the minimum permission it needs. A Jira server for read access doesn't need write rights. Write tool descriptions carefully. The model decides what to invoke based on these descriptions. Vague or overly broad descriptions, they lead to unexpected calls. Every tool call gets logged. Who, what, with what parameters, what result, not just for debugging, but for compliance. So if you want to use MCP in your stack and you still don't know where to start, that's exactly what we do at EverBright IT. AI agents that run in productions and not in demos. There's a whole blog article written on our homepage. If you're interested, the link to the article with code examples is in the description. And if the topic interests you, drop a subscribe. Next week, we're talking about microservices and monolith and why most mid-sized companies pick the wrong architecture. See you there.